Okay, here we go. No, because as soon as I zoom in, I won't move. All right, I'll zoom in just a little bit. All right. So it says find the horizontal and vertical asymptotes of this function. Okay. Once we start adding x's on the top, then they start becoming a little more weird. Now in my denominator, if we set our denominator x squared minus x not equal to 0, we find our asymptotes. Okay? How do I simplify that? Come on. You can't see x squared minus x cannot equal 0? Something about x. Add it? How about we take it out? Yeah. Factor out an x and we get x minus 1, right? Oh, that makes it a lot easier. So what two numbers can x not be? X cannot equal 0 and 1. Where are my two asymptotes going to be? 0 and 1. Okay? So it has two vertical asymptotes. The equation for the leftmost asymptote, left is on this side, is x equals 0. The equation for the rightmost asymptote is x equals 1. Okay, we got that. Then, horizontal asymptote. What's going on with that? Well, that's where it gets a little more tricky. Because when you have an x and an x squared, it's more of, you got more stuff going on. So, on your graphing calculator, if you graph it, and you go y equals 6x plus 1 divided by x squared minus x, both of them have to be in parentheses, and you graph it, you get something like that, and you go, eh? That looks weird. Okay? So that's your graphing calculator, which, everybody in here has. Well, there's this other thing called Desmos, if you've heard about Desmos. It's about the most popular graphing calculator, internet graphing calculator that is. And with Desmos, you can actually see a little bit better what's going on. Okay? So on Desmos, I see that we're coming here like this and going down and whoop, up we go. Okay? And then I don't see anything between 0 and 1. And I'm going, well, what's going on there? Well, if I zoom and I zoom, now I see what's going on there. I've got a little tiny parabola down here in between 0 and 1. So, do I have a horizontal asymptote here? Yeah, I have a horizontal asymptote at 0 to the left and 0 to the right. Okay? So, it just got a little, it looks like it wants to go down, then it decides, oh, no, I don't like it that way, and it turns around and goes back up. Okay? So that's what happens when you start having variables on the top and powers on the bottom. They start acting a little differently. So, looking at the correct choice here, how many horizontal asymptotes does it have? 1, basically. The horizontal asymptote is x equals 0. Okay? All right. So, as it goes towards 0 from the left, as we're going towards 0 from the left, remember, it went like this and then like this. So where is it going? It's going towards infinity. Okay? As we go towards 0 from the right, remember it had way down here it had a little parabola going down. So as we're going towards 0 from the right, because this is where it was at 0, where are we going? Negative infinity. As we're going towards 1 from the left going towards 1, 1 is, so here's our asymptote, and here's our other asymptote. So as we're going towards 1 from the left, what's happening? Well, we're going down here, and it's going down. That's our parabola down there, negative infinity. As we're going towards 1 from the right, where's it going? Up to infinity. As we're going towards negative infinity, where is it going? As the graph keeps going this way forever, we're going closer and closer to 0. As we're going this way forever, where it's getting closer and closer to 0. Okay. So on one question, there's quite a few answers to put in. Okay. But answers that we can find either with graphing calculator or with Desmos or whatever. Okay. Let's look at another one that's very similar to that. Okay. What do I do to my denominator to find my asymptotes? Set it not equal to 0 and factor. So x squared minus 3x minus 18 is not equal to 0. Two sets of parentheses. X and x. Factors of 18 that are 3 apart. 6 and 3. So I'm going to go a negative 6 and a positive 3 adds up to be negative 3. So my asymptotes are at 6 and negative 3. So it has two horizontal asymptotes that go to, that's horizontal. Let's go to vertical first. It has two vertical asymptotes. The left one is x equals negative 3. The right one is x equals 6. Horizontal asymptotes. This is where I just graph it. Because with all the dividing going on and that, there's going to be one horizontal asymptote. I know that because the power on the top is lower than the power on the bottom. So if I graph it, I could grab my graphing calculator on y equals and delete. And then I go parentheses x plus 1, right, minus 1, divided by parentheses x squared minus 3x minus 18. Forgot the x. X minus 18. Okay, this one's a little easier to figure out. Okay. Now, I know I have an asymptote at negative 3. There it is. I know I have an asymptote at 6. There it is. What's my horizontal asymptote going to be? 0. I've got one horizontal asymptote, y equals 0. Okay? X-intercepts. Where is it going to cross the x-axis at? To find an x-intercept, you set the numerator equal to 0. If the numerator equals 0, what is x going to equal? 1. So the x-intercept is at 1. Y-intercept. Where is it going to cross the y-axis at? Well, to find a y-intercept, you put 0 in for all the x's. If I put a 0 in here, 0 in here, 0 in here, I get a negative 1 over negative 18, which is 118. (118) is my y-intercept. What does it look like? Well, you look at the graphing calculator, you see it goes, I think it's B. Okay. All right. Now, when the numerator is higher than the denominator, we have what's called slant asymptotes. See how it's slanting up there on these? Okay. So I'm just going to plunk this into my graphing calculator right away just to try to save myself some time. So I go y equals, I'm going to delete or clear. And then I'm going to go x squared minus 4x plus 3. It's actually faster here. X squared minus 4x plus 3 divided by parentheses x plus 1, x plus 1, boom, graph. And obviously you can see a slant asymptote going on there. What happened to the left side of my equation? Did I put everything in right?
I had to zoom out to see it.
Okay. There we go. Yep. Okay. So we got it coming up like that. Oh, because this is 50s here. Yeah. Okay. Where would our vertical asymptote be at? Okay, your denominator. -1. -1. To find my x-intercepts, set the numerator equal to 0. So x and x, minus and minus, 1 and 3 make 4. So x equals 1 and 3. Those are my x-intercepts, 1 and 3. Y-intercept, stick 0 in for all these. You get 3 over 1, which is 3. And which is the correct graph? Well, basically, we should maybe trace here so we can figure out which one is the correct one. C? We already know that? Okay, sounds good to me. Yeah, because 10, yeah, we didn't see it originally, so it would have to be C. Okay? And then we're going to start looking at, okay, which of these functions match with these functions? Okay? So, these numbers on the outside affect the going up and down. The numbers in the denominator are left and right. Okay? So, if there's no number on the outside, like these two do not have a number on the outside, what's our horizontal asymptote going to be? 0. So which ones have a horizontal asymptote of 0? Well, that's A and B, right? Now, what is this negative going to do to my original graph, which is like this and this? Flip it. So which is the flip of that? Well, that's B, right? So this one goes to B, which means this one must go to A. And see how -5, everything shifts to the right 5, +3, everything shifts to the left 3. Makes sense. Okay? All right. So then I look at a -2 makes it go down 2, because this is on the outside. Outside goes down 2. Okay. Which one is the only one that's down 2? E is down 2. Okay. And it's also 4 to the right. Okay. This one goes up how far? 4. So going up 4 looks to be that one. Okay. This one goes up how far? 3. So I'm thinking that's C. and that has a vertical asymptote of 1, so that makes sense. And so this one goes up by 2 and goes to the left 2 as well, so it goes there. So you just take the attributes of it and figure out which one goes where. I think we have a couple of those. We have a couple of those. No, just one. And then that's finding exclude from the domain 0 and -7. And then graph it and figure out that. There's only 6 questions. You should be able to get done within a decent amount of time. So yeah, not horrible assignment. So let's get going with that so we can enjoy our weekend without too much pre-calc. So next week we'll do 2 sections Monday, 2 sections or 1 section Wednesday, and Friday we'll do a little review and practice test, and we'll take the test, which will go on the next quarter because we end the next quarter on Friday. We'll take that test the next week. Okay. So we just came up short of getting the chapter 2 test done in time for the first quarter, which is fine.
So I'm a little confused because for this one, we said that the horizontal asymptote is at 0,
Right.
but it crosses.
You can cross a horizontal asymptote.
Okay.
You can never cross a vertical asymptote, but you can cross a horizontal asymptote.